Hello, I'm Dennis Barnard from Green River and HR Means Business. I want to talk to you about something that's very often misunderstood, the true mission for human resources. In his science fiction story The Lost World, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle imagined an isolated plateau where evolution had slowed down, whereas everything in the surrounding countryside had moved on. I see human resources allegories in this concept, and in this session I'll be looking at the various forms of prehistoric life and environments that inhabit the HR plateau. First up, let's take the lost world of the perception of human resources. Human resources as a function can mean different things depending on the organization in which it operates. And even in the HR world itself, its practitioners sometimes admit to having doubts about what they're really trying to achieve. Let's consider some common views or commonly held views of HR that are wrong, but actually have a tiny grain of truth in most of them. HR is about managing the people and hiring and firing them. Well, actually, HR only manages, hires and fires HR people, because line managers do all that in the other departments. HR is the employee's advocate. Well, no. Unions and works councils are more properly the employee advocates. HR is full of management spies and toadies. Well, fortunately not true, although some high-level cases in recent years showed HR either accepting or abetting some highly inappropriate corporate behaviors. HR makes up the organizational rules and polices them. Well, HR may help present the statutory legal elements in the organization, but actually the rules are set by management. And finally, HR is responsible for the organizational culture and morale. The HR department may be symptomatic of the organization's culture, but the tone is set from above, and morale flows out of this culture. The lack of clarity, both within and outside the department, has resulted in HR, in a desperate effort to justify its existence, becoming a dumping ground for a raft of admin and other non-value activities. This stuff then expands into a comfort zone, resulting in HR's apparent permanent state of firefighting. And of course, firefighting is a good reason for missing deadlines and not completing things. Another exercise that eats HR time and resources in many outfits is the practice of having an HR representative attend every candidate interview. Yes, it's still widespread, believe it or not. Never mind, they know next to nothing about the job or what's required. And it's worth noting in passing that in my corporate experience, HR have been notorious for cancelling meetings at the last minute because of firefighting. If only we could get rid of this stuff, we could be more strategic, is the HR mantra. But are we sure that all these HR people actually have the capacity to be strategic? Can we turn an HR admin person into a business-focused powerhouse? Now let's take a tour of the lost world of working in HR. And in a moment, I know some of you will be booing and hissing at what I have to say. Why do you want to work in HR is a question that's usually answered by, because I won't work with people. My response to that is, well, you won't get much chance of that because you'll be dealing with management most of the time. But seriously, all that to one side. Most entrants do their HR professional exams, maybe even going on to do a master's, and then emerge into the world of work with little or no experience of how business actually works. Their first jobs will be pretty much as grunts in the HR department doing, yes, admin. And they'll learn their HR practices from people who let the admin flourish. Plenty of firefighting will keep them away from thinking too deeply about what they're doing. It's no coincidence some of the best HR folk I've ever worked with came from a non-HR background. They get the picture, and that's not learned from textbooks, authoring pretty reports, or pushing paperwork. Some of them have moved on to management at board level with notable success. Meanwhile, along with our HR admin people on the plateau, there's still a hard core of dinosaur HR managers who like to command and control the workforce, and weak, lazy managements only too happy to abdicate the responsibility to them. HR needs to get right into the nuts and bolts of the business, talk the same language, and not sit in splendid isolation on the plateau. And so we cut our way through the jungle to arrive at our final destination, the lost world of human resources technology, which is, of course, a subject very close to my heart. HR has traditionally been reluctant to get into the tech side, and either allowed IT or finance people or even external consultancies to make the decisions on their behalf, which, by the way, is a great disclaimer when it doesn't work out as planned. Or they've gone ahead and selected software that's totally unsuitable. A recent Personio survey of the HR pandemic situation showed that 42% of respondents lack the data and tools needed to support the business in the best way possible, and 71% have struggled with poor access to employee data. Well, we're nearly in 2021, and this is nothing less than a total indictment of HR's inability to grab the benefits on offer in terms of improved quality of output. Such is the status quo. A while back, I posited 3 laws of HR tech, which in essence place firmly in HR's domain the responsibilities for selecting and installing the HR system, maintaining its data integrity, and ensuring that the information was available freely to those who need it. And this led me on to consider the wider brief. What is HR's real mission? How do we escape the lost worlds? Experience has taught me that the core mission of HR almost certainly lies in getting and putting into use the right tools to enable good management and employee development and performance. For example, this would include HR systems to generate management data, pay and benefit structure to reward the workforce, and recruitment and development programs to max the employee potential. All of this to be underpinned by a framework of compliance, both of statutory requirements and organizational aspirations, such as equality of opportunities for all, and further reinforced with the necessary learning from management figures and employees alike as to their responsibility within their roles. HR doesn't have to be a nest of legal eagles, but they do need to know the working basics of employment law, enough to cope initially with most issues, and where and when to get specialist advice. And remember, if the full program is rolled out, you'll have fewer and fewer cases arising from trigger-happy managers and disgruntled employees. What I've said here so far sounds reasonable, but it certainly won't be music to the ears of those whose main aspiration is an HR seat at the board table. It's not a glamorous role I'm suggesting, and it won't grab too many headlines. But it is a crucial one. If it's done right, it makes a difference between a well-run organisation and one that's running at rather less than its true potential. During this pandemic crisis, there's also been criticism aimed at many of HR's professional bodies, mainly for maintaining a low profile and not providing enough leadership. Contrast, if you will, with the bodies responsible for payroll, who've been very, very active in supporting their members. The very same HR bodies that preach disruption are actually being disrupted. Right now, they're talking about adjusting to the new normal. In other words, rebuilding the establishment. My personal take on this is there won't be any new normal anytime soon. And right now, real thought leadership is coming from groups like A Fistful of Talent and radical individuals like Laurie Ritterman, Kelly Swingler, Tim Sackett, Jason Averbrook. And I'll take that as a new normal anytime. Just something to ponder. In the 70s and through to the 80s, in most sizable organisations, there would be a large room filled with noisy accounting machines and their operators. Decades later, and where are those machines and operators now? It's a business version of Darwin's theory in practice. If HR doesn't get a grip on the mission, grab the tools and evolve to make for a better, productive workplace, then it'll be stuck in the prehistoric jungles of the lost worlds. This has been Dennis Barnard, and thanks once again for listening. I'll see you next time.